What's going on, and welcome to another episode of the Young Black King podcast. It's your boy Chris, aka Young Shrew. So this week I wanted to do it's a two-part episode. So I'm gonna do my part, and I'm pretty sure Tracy's gonna have some things he wants to say about this topic as well. So I wanted to cover this 21st century relationships. That's what I want to talk about today. That's what the video is going to be about. I got a short clip that I want to play of a video that is currently going viral on Facebook. There's some things that this gentleman says that I want to personally talk about. But anyways, before we get into that, first and foremost, I want to thank God for giving me another week, another day, another opportunity to reach out and motivate, uplift another one of you positive role models out there, you young black kings. I appreciate every last one of you guys. This podcast, I started it 4 weeks ago to be able to give back to everyone. And, I know it's called Young Black Kings, but it's not necessarily just for men. I have women that listen to this. I have people of all different races, size, colors, genders that listen to this podcast. And this is truly for everyone. Eventually, we are looking into branching out and having a Young Black Queen podcast. I am actively looking for a host for that. So if you're listening to this and you actually want to be a part of the YBK family, you can always reach out to me on email at youngblackKingsPod@gmail.com, or reach out to us on the Facebook page if you haven't already gone out and liked that page. Just the Young Black Kings. We post there periodically throughout the week. It's a community, so if you have questions, topics that you want to hear us talk about here on the podcast, reach out to us via the email or the Facebook, and we're more than happy to interact with you guys and have fellowship with you all. So that's what it's there for, and I really hope that you guys take advantage of those opportunities to be able to reach out with myself and Tracy. That's what we're here for. We want to learn and grow with everyone. Me and Tracy, we sound like we have our stuff together, but we're definitely growing ourselves. So without further ado, I'm gonna play this clip now. I will have to warn you guys there is some choice language in this clip. I will do my best to edit out some of the more vulgar words. But it's just part of the clip. The video itself is about almost 4 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I want to touch over the first part that he talks about. But I'll play this clip, and then we'll go in and talk about what my thoughts are of that. So let's go ahead and jump into that.
But Daddy, I didn't even hear that first part again. You said you've been married to your wife 18 years and she ain't never paid what?
I've been married to my wife for 18 years, going on 19 years. My wife has never paid a mortgage payment. She's never paid a gas bill, electric bill. She's never paid a cable bill. She's never had to pay insurance for her cars. I pay for all that. But that's what man does for his family. I'm not on no pedestal behind it, but that's what a man does. A man takes care of his family. My wife shouldn't have to worry about a mortgage payment. She doesn't have to worry about the lights being on, gas being on, food in the refrigerator. She don't pay for food. She don't pay for none of that. That's my job. Understand me? You don't have to be on a pedestal to do that. That's what a man do, and a man don't brag about that. I'm not bragging at all, but that's what a man does. A man got 8 children and 12 grandchildren.
Say it again.
Okay? And I've never been under one child support order in my life.
And you take care of all of them. You do for
and I do for all my kids. Whenever they need me, all they gotta do is call their daddy, and I'm right there. And so if you meet a that can't treat you the way your father treats you, you don't need that.
Hello, good full set. Okay.
So there's clearly a lot to unpack from that clip. Obviously, the gentleman is a much older gentleman. He says he has grandchildren and things like that. So he's from a much different generation. And don't get me wrong, I fully applaud that gentleman for being able to take care of his wife and his kids the way that he does. But understand something, young black kings out there. Don't feel discouraged because you can't do that in this generation. It is virtually impossible to be able to pull that feat off these days. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to feel bad about that. You got to understand this. In today's world, there are very little places across the country where you can get by being able to provide for a family. I think I used to live in Colorado, as Tracy, you mentioned not too long ago. Currently, right now in Colorado, someone needs to be able to make roughly about $20 an hour to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment and not live check to check. $20 an hour. Okay. There's a lot of jobs out there that's not paying anywhere close. I mean, the national minimum wage is only $7 for crying out loud. So it's virtually impossible for someone to be able to provide for a family like the way that gentleman does. And for him to be able to say you're not someone who can take care of someone, and that women shouldn't be able to look for a man to do that, that's preposterous. And the reason why I say that, again, because the times we live in now are different from the times that we live in back then. You could go to school and get a good grade, and then go to college, get even better grades, graduate college and get a job and work for that job for 40 years. That doesn't exist in 2019. You have people who are graduating college at the age of 21, 22, 23 years old, and they're already tens of thousands of dollars in debt. They have a degree. They're trying to go and find a job. Now this job doesn't pay them enough to be able to pay off their debts. And this person is supposed to be able to provide single-handedly for an entire family. And then on the flip side of that, you have your independent women, the women who don't want a man to take care of them. They want to be able to provide for themselves. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I do think is that this generation needs to learn how to be a team. See, I believe that marriage and relationships are a partnership, okay? You have a 50-50 partnership. You do everything together. Otherwise, you kind of feel like you're controlling it a little bit. Like, I don't want to... I don't want to have to be the person that says this how everything goes every single time. Why? Because I'm the man. I'm to make the rules. That's a 1950s mentality. I'm living in 2019. I want to have my better half to be able to have the freedom to do what she wants when she wants and have her own money to do so. But at the end of the day, I do know that unless I am some sort of professional athlete or some sort of movie star or somewhere where I'm making millions of dollars and she doesn't have to work, at the end of the day, we have to be a 2-income household. Otherwise, we're not living the way that we're meant to be living. Like we said last week, like you can live beyond the means of your parents. You don't have to be restricted to what they've experienced. But because of that, there's a price. And that price means that in this day and age, it makes more sense to have that dual income household. It makes more sense to be able to divide the bills, because at the end of the day, like, you know, I like nice things too. I can afford to pay for everything by myself, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't have any extra income because all my money goes to paying all the bills. And it's better to it's better to pull your resources together and be able to do that together. So I'm not saying that what that gentleman's saying was absolutely wrong, because at one point in time, it was possible to do that. And it was looked upon for the man to be the provider and be that. Today, not so much. And the older generation can't fault the younger generation for not being able to do that. Why? Because it simply does not exist in today. And I'm here to tell you, do not feel bad about that. It is not your fault. But you can change that narrative. You don't have to rely on that job. You have a gift, you have a talent. You can go take that and do something with it and be able to change the narrative for your family for generations to come. But you have to do it. Simple as that. So the other part of that, the video, the gentleman talked about being a father, and he pointed out that all of his children and his grandchildren, he's able to take care of them and provide for them anything that they want or need. He's able to he's able to do things for them. Now let's unpack that part. I understand there's a lot of you listeners out there. You may not have a father. You may not know who that person is. You may not have that relationship. But at the end of the day, what he was saying is that as a father, you have to set a standard for how your children should be treated. He's specifically referencing his daughters and the men that they choose to be in their lives. He said he set a high standard, a high bar, so that these men, they have to hold themselves accountable to that bar. Better yet, his daughters have to hold them accountable to that bar that he set. And he said a lot of fathers or young men or who just so happen to have children, I wouldn't necessarily call them fathers, a lot of them set bars really low. And so what that does is that literally creates a way for these young women to come out here and basically have low standards because the bar is set ridiculously low. I have someone I guess you can call a stepdaughter of mine. Someone is a friend of mine's daughter. She's always looked up to me, and I've considered her as a child of my own. She is getting to that age, and I listen to that video and I think about what happens if she comes to me and asks me for dating advice and things like that. What would I say? And I can't honestly give you an honest answer of what I would say, but it's something along those lines. You got to set that high standard for yourself. And now it's not just something that you have to set, but you have to allow your kids to be able to set an example for them so they know what to expect and what to look forward to. But that's just where that is now. Again, this the video itself, it goes on for another 2 minutes or so, and he goes on a bit of a tangent about other things. But the gist of that is, I simply can't. Part of the things that he says I agree with, but I simply can't get behind that full message. I can't stress enough that in this day and age, it has to be a partnership. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.